Night witches. Why Nazi troops feared these silent Soviet women bombers. Imagine you're a German soldier on the Eastern Front in the dead of night. The air is still, your camp is quiet, and suddenly you hear it, a faint whistling, like the whisper of a ghost. Moments later, explosions rip through the sky. This wasn't a hallucination. It was the terror of the Nachthexen, the night witches, Soviet women pilots who bombed Nazi positions under the cover of darkness during World War II. They were real, they were deadly, and they flew planes made of canvas and wood. In 1941, after Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the Soviet Union faced annihilation. But among the Soviet response came something unexpected. A regiment of all-female pilots formed under the orders of Marina Raskova, a legendary Soviet aviator often called the Russian Amelia Earhart. Stalin approved the formation of 3 women's aviation regiments. Among them, the 588th Night Bomber Regiment, the most feared, would soon become legends. These women, aged between 17 and 26, volunteered for war not as nurses or clerks, but as combat aviators. They were undertrained, under-equipped, underestimated, and they were about to change the war. The aircraft they flew? The Polikarpov Po-2, a fragile biplane made of plywood and canvas. Initially designed as a crop duster, it had no radio, no radar, and offered zero protection from enemy fire. But what it lacked in might, it made up in stealth. The Po-2's slow speed allowed it to fly beneath enemy radar, and its wooden frame barely gave a heat signature. But most terrifying of all was their bombing tactic. The pilots would cut the engine mid-flight, glide silently over German camps, and drop bombs without warning. The whistling sound that followed, just before the explosion, led German soldiers to call them night witches. They believed these women were not human, and in many ways they weren't. They flew in freezing temperatures, without parachutes, in open cockpits. They faced enemy fire, anti-aircraft guns, and the terror of being burned alive if their fragile planes were hit. Yet they flew every single night, multiple missions, night after night, for years. Some flew over 1,000 combat sorties. One of the most decorated night witches was Nadezhda Popova, shot down multiple times, wounded, her aircraft riddled with holes, but she always came back. When asked why she flew, she said, "It was our duty. We were fighting for our country, for our brothers, fathers, mothers, children. We couldn't stop." The night witches weren't just feared, they were respected, even by the Nazis. The Germans offered the Iron Cross, one of their highest awards, to anyone who could shoot down a night witch. But it wasn't easy. The women flew low, fast, and struck from the shadows. They became ghost stories told around Nazi campfires. By the end of World War II, the 588th Regiment had dropped over 23,000 tons of bombs. They flew over 30,000 missions, and they became the most highly decorated unit in the Soviet Air Force. Yet after the war, their contributions were buried. Most were denied full military honors. Why? Because they were women. It would take decades for the world to acknowledge their heroism. But today, their legend lives on, in books, in documentaries, and in every heart that's ever known courage under fire. The night witches flew with death in their wings, and they never backed down. They weren't just pilots, they were pioneers, and they were warriors in the truest sense.
History connects us all. What's your view on this event topic? comment your thoughts below. Please like, share and subscribe for more interesting facts.